Okay, continuing on in chapter 7 on percent. So this is 7.3, general applications of percent. So basically what we're going to see here is additional problems of percentage applications. Okay, they're no different than applications we saw in 7.2. Basically, we're still going to translate the words. So what is equal to x, of equals times, and is equal to equals. So let's start. It says 34 mils of a 211 mil solution is phosphoric acid. What percent of the solution is phosphoric acid? Okay, so if we think about this, what percent of the solution is phosphoric acid? So what percent? So that's going to give us X of the solution. Well, we have a total solution of 211 mils. So 211 is equals phosphoric acid. Well, it says 34 mils of the thing is phosphoric acid. So that's equal to 34. So basically, we translated this sentence and the last one by using the information given to us in the first one. And so now we have to solve for x to know what percent it is. And we're going to have to get a decimal first, and then after that, we'll convert it to the percent. So we're going to divide by 211. We'll divide by 211. So those cancel. And so x equals, now we just take 211 into 34. And we'll take it out a couple places because I'm not sure how many it'll go. So that doesn't go in any. It'll go in once here. So that's going to be 211. Subtract that. That's going to be a 3. That's a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 minus 2 again. 3 minus 1 is 2. Pardon me. 3 minus 2 is 1. Got them in backwards order. And now what we can do is we can bring down our next 0. All right, so 2 will go in here roughly 6 times, it looks like. So 2, 1, 1 times 6, 6, 6, 12. That fits. So we have a 6, 1, 2, 6, 6. Subtract that. Well, that becomes 8. So 10 minus 6 is 4. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now we'll bring down a 0. Well, that can go in one time. That's 2, 1, 1. Subtract that. Well, that's going to be a 3. So 10 minus 1, 9. 3 minus 1 is 2. And now if we bring down another 0, that's 0. So that'll only go in one time as well. And that's 2, 1, 1. Subtract that. Well, that becomes 8. That's 1. 10 minus 1 is 9. 8 minus 1 is 7. And so if we're thinking about what percent, now this one, I should probably note this says to the nearest. I should read these before I start. Nearest tenth of a percent. So to the nearest tenth of a percent means we're going to have to go out 4 decimal places, which is what we've done. And so this is 0.1611. Again, to convert it to percent, we have to move the decimal 1, 2, and so that gives us 16.11%, but they want it to the nearest tenth. Well, that 1 doesn't round up, and so it's just 16.1%. All right. So we sort of have to get it into the percent form before we know if we've got enough, or we have to remember that, when we get done with this, we're going to move it 2 places to the right, and then after that, we can see where the tenths and hundredths is and how many more we have to go. So if we're going to the nearest tenth, we have to go out 4. If we're going to the nearest hundredth, we'll have to go out 5, and so we just have to pay attention to that. So that would be 16.1% is the what percent of the solution is phosphoric acid? 16.1%. All right, so this one is to the nearest percent. So what we need to do is say nearest percent. So we want a whole number. And it says a family has completed 153 miles of a planned 431-mile trip. Find the percent of the planned trip already traveled. Okay. Well, we know that what we're going to have to do is we're going to have x times some percent times the total trip, 431, is equal to how much we've traveled so far, 153. So percent of the planned trip already traveled, and so that just has to divide those two out. And so now we're back to divide by 431, divide by 431. So those cancel, And so that's going to give us, and now we have to go and divide those out. 431 into 152.00. All right, so that's going to be a 0. And so then 431 times maybe 3. That's a 3, that's a 9, that's a 12. So that looks like it might work. So that's 1, 2, 9, 3. Subtract that off. So that's a 4, 11, 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. And that's going to be a 2. That's going to be a 2. Now we can bring down our 0. And so we're going to have to put a couple more decimal places here, it looks like. That was right here. Better keep that one. So now what we have is to get to 2270, 43, 1 times maybe 5. That'll be a 5. That's a 15. That's a 21. So it's a 5. 2155. Subtract that off. Well, that's going to become 6. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And we bring down another 0. And this is going to be the last one we need, because if we remember, if we move it 2 places, we'll need the one more to get to the nearest whole number. All right, so this is less than that, so it's going to only be 2. And so that's going to be a 2, a 6, and an 8. Subtract that off. Well, we're going to have to come all the way over here. That's a 0, that's a 10, that's a 14. 10 minus 2 is 8, 14 minus 6 is 8, 10 minus 8 is 2. And so that's less than that, so that looks good. And so we get this is 0.352. Now, converting it to percent, we have to move it 2 places to the right, so that's 35.2%. Now we can round. That doesn't round, and so we get 35% of the trip has been taken already. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's about a third of the trip that looks like it's been taken. So, third is 33 and 1/3. So that looks good. So that would be our value of the percent of the trip taken so far. All right, so this one, Barbara takes a role in her 5th grade class and to find out that 15 out of the 38 students on her roster are present. Find the percentage of the class that is present. Well, if we write it as an equation, we're going to take some percent of the total class, which is 38, is equal to what is actually there, which is 15. So now, just like the last problem, we knew that we wanted to find the percent of the total trip. So we took x times 431 was equal to how far we've already gone. Oops, I'm supposed to be 153 and I did 152. We'll change the problem. So that's a 2 now. All right, so we changed the problem in the middle, but that's okay. All right, so now we have to divide and make sure I have the right numbers here. 15, 38, that looks good. So we're going to divide by 38. So x is equal to, well, those cancel, and I just have to take 38 into 15.123. And what this one, it wants it to the nearest percent as well. So nearest percent. So on last one, to get to the nearest percent, we had to go out 3 decimal places. So we'll have to go 3 decimal places in this one too. So that's what we've written. So we're good here. All right, so what do we have here? This is our decimal. That doesn't go in there. Now 40 goes into this. It looks to probably be 3 times maybe. So 38 times 3 times is 24. That's 9, 10, 11. 38 more, that's going to go over, so we'll be good. So that's going to be a 3, 1, 1, 4. Subtract, that's a 4. So it's a 6, that's a 2, and bring down our 0. Now we have to think about this one. If we take this one and add another 114, that's 228. So that's 3 here, that's 6 here. Let's see if another 38, what that does. That's 16, that's 6, 2, so that's too much. So it's just going to be a 6. All right. So now what do we have? All right. So that would give us the 6 here. Oh, wait a minute. 4 and 1, that's a 3. That's not a 2. So it's not 6. Now we have to add some more. Good thing I caught that before we got too far. All right, so 360 actually. So that was 7. And if we add another 38 times 2 is 1676. That's going to be a 12, 14, 342. And that gives us a 9. So that looks to be what that should be actually. So 342, subtract that, that's a 5. 10 minus 2 is 8. 5 minus 4 is 1. Make sure I keep track of things here. All right, 0, 180. All right, well, if we added 6, it was 228, so that's too many. So if we have 38 times 5, that's going to be 40. That's 15, that's 19. That's still too big, so it's just going to be a 4. So 38 times 4, that's 32. That's 12, 13, 14, 15. So 4, 152, subtract. It's a 7, that's an 8, that's a 2. That looks good. And so now we know that if we move it over, we have enough to round if we need to. So 0.394 is our decimal. And if we move it 2 places to the right, that gives us 39.4%. And we wanted it to the nearest percent. This does not round up, and so that's 39%. Okay, so 39% of her class is actually present that day. Okay, and if we think about that, half of that, if that was 30, that would be half, but it's over, it's 40. So that looks to be about 40%. So yeah, so if we change that to 40, that'll work. So that looks like a correct answer. And just have to remember to subtract 4 minus 1 is 3. Because I had it, looks like a 2 there, but that's a 1. All right, next one. Ira earns a commission on all sales she makes. She sells sofas for $408 and earns a commission of $39. Find the percent of the commission. All right, so we're going to kind of set it up just like we did the last one. We're going to take some number x, and that's going to be her percent. So x times how much the sofa sells for, 408, is going to equal what her commission is. Okay, so what do? Well, we divide by 408, and we divide by 408. And so then x is going to give us some decimal, and then that we can convert to the percent. Now let's see, this one wants 1/10 of a percent. So that's going to be out to 4 decimals, I think. Because the last one we had to the nearest whole percent, and that was 3 decimals, so we should be 4 decimals here. All right, so let's divide. 408 goes into 39.1234. All right, so that goes in 0. That's a 0. Now 4 times 9 is 36, so we'll assume that's going to give us the right number there. And so 408 times 9, that's going to give us 7236. So 3672. Subtract that off, that's an 8. That's a 9. So 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 7 is 2. 8 minus 6 is 2. And we can bring down our 0. All right, so now 4 times 6 is 24, so 4 times 5. So how about 408 times 5? So that's a 40, that's a 20. So that'll be a 5. That's 2040. And so it's a 0, that's a 4, that's a 2, that's a 0. Another 408 on that, that's not going to work, so that's another 5. So that's 2040 again. So that's a 3, that's a 9. So 10 minus 0. Oops, I guess we don't have to go that far. That's a 10. Let's kind of clear that up a little bit before I do that. I probably just messed everything up. Let's start that over and then rewrite it. All right, so we subtract that. That's a 0, that's a 4, that's a 2. And we brought down our next 0. And 2040. Subtract that. And so that's a 0. Then we'll have to borrow 1 place. And so it's a 6, that's a 3. And so now we have enough to actually round it to the 10th. So this was 0.0955 move a decimal 2 places to get to the tenth, or to the percent, and so we get 9.55%. That does round up, and so we get 9.6% when we round to the nearest tenth of a percent. Okay. All right, so does that make sense? She's not making a lot of commission, a very small number. 10% of that would be about 40, and that's what we get here, 39. So 9.6, that's pretty close to 10%. So that looks like it makes sense as far as our actual answer. All right, here we go. Trinity answered 90% of the questions on the chemistry exam correctly. If Trinity had 99 correct answers, how many questions were on the exam? Well, if we let X is going to be the number of questions on the exam times the percent total she got right. Remember, we have to convert that to a decimal, so we drop this, move it 2 places to the right, so we get the 0.9. That's equal to 99. Okay, so what do? Well, we divide by 0.9. We divide by 0.9, so those cancel, and we get x equals, well, remember, we can't divide by a decimal, so we have to move decimal place 1 here, and so we have to move the decimal 1 place here, and so we're taking 9 into 990. So that goes in once, that's 9, subtract that, that's 0, bring down our 9. That goes in once again, that's 9, subtract that, that's 0, bring down our 0, and that's 0 times it goes in there, and so it looks like there's 110 questions. Okay, and does that make sense? Well, if you take 90% of that, 0.9 times that, well, that gives us 99. So that makes sense for that question. So this is one of those easy ones where the math is easy, setting it up is easy, and we don't have too much difficulty. All right, so here we have a sales tax. So a state sales tax is 6.5% for all sales. If the sales tax on a bed is $33, find the sale price of the bed. All right, well, oh yeah, we forgot to look at number of decimals on this one. This is to the nearest dollar. So the last one, that was easy. I just put 110 questions and I hope that was right. So this one we want to the nearest dollar. All right. So what do we have? Well, 6.5%. Remember, we have to convert that to decimal, so we drop that, move it 2 places here, so we get 0.065 times the total price, which we don't know, that's what we're looking for, and that's going to be how much tax you pay, and they paid $33 for tax. So we have the percent sales tax times the price of the bed is equal to our tax paid. So now we have to divide by 0.065, divide by 0.065. So those cancel, and we get x equals. Now, again, we can't divide by decimals, so we have to move 1, 2, 3. So here we have to move 3 as well. 1, 2, 3. So now we're taking 65 into 33,000.00. All right. And so when we do this division, all we really have to go to is to that first decimal place if we're rounding to the nearest whole dollar, so we can get rid of that last one so we don't take it too far, because this will be the dollars, this will be the tenths of a cent, and then if it rounds up, it'll round up. So 65 times what is 330? Well, if we take 65 times 5, what does that give us? That gives us 25. That's 32, so that's close enough. So we take that times 5, that's 325. Subtract that off, that's 5. Bring down our 0. Well, that goes in 0 times, so we have to bring down another 0. And so now 65 times what is 50? If we take it times 7 maybe, that's 35. That's 42, 43, 44, 45. And that looks like it's about as good as we're going to get. So that's a 7. So that's a 455. Subtract that off. That's a 4. That's a 9. That's 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. Now we bring down our last one. How many times will it go in here? Well, that must be 6 because 7 is 455. So 65 times 6, that's 30, 36, 37, 38, 39. So it's 6, so 390. Make sure it's less than 65 when we do the subtraction, so that's a 0. And here we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 60, so that looks good. So if to the nearest dollar, that means we're going to round that one up because 0.6 is greater than. So this is going to be equal to $508. That's how much the, what were we buying here? Bed cost, okay, to the nearest whole dollar. All right, so hopefully that will help on that one. The next one's going to be similar, but it's a, let's see, is it going to be the same? Yeah, basically the same. So basically we're going to just do another division and make sure we can do our math that way. So I'm just going to do all the different problems here in one set, so there won't be a second set of examples to do. I'm just going to do them all at once. All right, so here it says Donald earned 4.5% commission on all of his sales. If the sale of a dryer earns him $24 of commission, find the sale price. Well, again, to get to the decimal, we drop the percent, move the decimal place twice, so that's going to give 0.045 for our decimal value for that. And he takes that number times his sales, which is what we don't know, so it's X, because we're selling a dryer. We don't know what that dryer is. And that earns him the commission of $24. So the commission percent times the sale equals the commission amount. Okay, so now we divide by 0.045. Divide by 0.045. Now what does this one tell us to do? It wants it to the nearest, turn to page, dollar again. Okay, so nearest dollar. So we have to divide. So when we do that, those cancel. And we get x equals. Now we have to move 1, 2, 3 here. So we have to move 1, 2, 3 here. And so we're taking 45 into 24,000. And we only have to go that one more decimal place because that'll round it up to the nearest dollar. Okay, so 45 times 5, yeah, 5, because 6 will be too big. 5 should give us at least the first one. So that's going to be 5 times 5 is 25. That's going to be 22. And so that looks like a good number. So 225. Subtract that. That's going to be a 3. 10 minus 5 is 5. 3 minus 2 is 1. And bring down our 0. Well, 45 times 3 will give us, that's going to give us 15. That's 12, 13. So that looks like our next number, 135. So we subtract that off, we get 1 and 5. And guess what? When we plug that in again, we're going to get the same thing. That's going to be a 3. That's going to give 135. We subtract that off, that's going to be 15. Bring down our last one there, and that's going to be a 3 again. And so here, that doesn't round up. And so our price for the dryer was $533. Okay. Now, if they wanted it to the nearest penny, it would be $533.33, but they only wanted it to the nearest dollar. All right. So the next one here, it says in 2008, there were a total of 1,891 applications to federal and state judges to authorize the interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications. If 94% of all wiretap applications were for portable devices such as cell phones or pagers, how many applications were made to tap mobile devices? All right, well, we have a total number of 1,891 wiretaps made. And we know that 94% of those, and again, remember, you drop the percent, move the decimal 2 places, so that's going to be times 0.94. So 94% of all of these is going to give us X, which is the number of portable devices, such as cell phones or pagers, okay? So this one's really easy. All we have to do is multiply. And this one, we went to the nearest whole number, which makes sense because you wouldn't have a part of an application, you run a whole application. So 1891 times 0.94 So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 8 is 32, 35. And 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay, that looks good. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. And 8 times 9 is 72, so it's going to give us 80. And then 8 and 9 is 17. And then we have our zeros, so we're not going to worry about multiplying that line. So that's a 4. That's going to give us a 15. That's going to give us a 7, and a 7, and a 7, and a 1, and 2 decimal places. So that's our number. Now, we want the whole number, so that does round up. And so x is going to be equal to 1778 applications for wire tap on mobile device. All right, and so that's going to be our value there. Now, does that make sense? Well, it's pretty close to this number, and if 94% of them were for mobile devices, that does make a sense that this is such a large number compared to the original value. All right, after the recent earthquake in Chile, an estimated 33 million gallons of Chilean wine, or 13% of the annual production, was lost. Estimate the total annual production of Chilean wine. Okay, well, if 13% was lost, well, how do we do that? We drop our percent, move our decimal 2 places to the left, so we have 0.13, that's the percent. Of the total, well, of the total, we don't know, is equal to, now here we're going to leave off millions of gallons. All we worry about right now is just the number. And then when we get done, when we write our answer, x equals blah, 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 million gallons. And so that's how we're going to get by without having to write all those zeros here. And this one, let us write to the nearest million gallons. So basically to the nearest whole number. And because we're just using this, it's going to be to the nearest whole number that's similar to that one. So how do we solve this one? Well, just like we've been doing, we divide by 0.13 on both sides. So those cancel. Now here we can't divide by decimal, so we have to move 2 places here. So guess what? We move 2 places here. And so we're going to take 13 into 3300 point, and then we only have to go 1 decimal because that will round up to the nearest whole number here, because that's going to be the number of millions of gallons. So 13 times 3 is 39, so 13 times 2 will give us 26. Subtract that, that's a 7. Bring down our 0. 13 times 5 might be as close. No, 6. That's going to be too big. 4. Maybe 5. We'll try 5 because let's see, 25. That's 75. That's too big. So let's see here. 15 times 4 is 20. That's 60. I guess that's as good as we're going to get there. So it's a 4, and that's going to be 60. Subtract that. That's 1 0. Bring down a 0. And so 13 times, how about 7? That's going to be 21. That's 91. Okay, so that's a 7. So that's 91. Subtract that off. That's a 9. Now we bring down our 0. Now that's going to be a 6 because it can't be 9. So 6, and that's 18. That's 78. And it's a 6 here. So that's 78. Subtract that off to make sure. That's a 2, 12. So that's less than. So that makes sense for our answer here. So that lets us be able to round up. And so let's see what we have there. So what we have is 247.6. So that should round up to the 248. Wait a minute. Why do I have 15s over here instead of 13s? I don't know. I guess those are wrong. And so I should probably go ahead and take 13 times 5, and that's going to be give me 15, so that's 65. So let me go and erase. again, not paying attention here apparently. All right. So that was a 2. And now we can put a 5 here, and that's going to give us 65. Subtract that, that's 5. Now we bring down our 0, that's 0. All right, so 13 times, oh, let's see, 4, that's a 12, that's 52, so that's too big, so it's going to be a 3. And that's going to give us our 39 that we talked about the first time, so I don't know where I got 15 out up there. So the 10 minus 1, and then that's a 1. Bring down our last 0. And so then if we do that, it's going to be probably bigger than that. So 13 times 8 is going to be 24. That's 104. That looks like a good number. Subtract that, that's 6. And we only need to go to here. So does 8 round up to 3? Yes, it does. So X is equal to 254 million gallons of Chilean wine per year is made, an annual production. Okay, and so that should then be our value. And again, these are not exact. It's not actually equal to, it's approximately equal to, because we did this rounding. And again, sorry about the 15s, it should be 13s, and then that makes the whole problem work a little bit differently. So, all right, let's go to the next one. According to the time standard, as of April 2008, the Bayshore Hall had 55 occupied storefronts and 17 vacant storefronts. What percent of the total storefronts are vacant? Well, X is going to be our value because we don't know what percent it is, times the total storefronts. Well, what do we have for total? Well, 55 plus 17, that's going to give us our total. And so that should be 72. And that's equal to, and what percent are vacant? Well, the vacant are 17. Okay, so what percent of the total is equal to the vacant? Well, if we divide that by 72, divide that by 72, now we can say X is equal to, now we just divide that out. Now we have to pay attention, so we put the right number there. And this one wants it to the nearest whole number. Okay. So because they wanted to the nearest whole number, we only have to go to one decimal place. All right, so 72 times 2 is going to give us 144. And so that should be as big as we can go at this point. So that's a 6, that's a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. And now we bring down our first 0. So that's there. Now 72 times 4 is 28, so how about 3? So that's a 6. That's going to give us 21. So that's a 3. That's 20. Oh. That's, I don't know why I have a decimal way over there. That's, I divided by 17, not, or 17 here. So that's 17. So that's a 0.23. And so we only need 3 decimal places, but we have 4 here. So let's go ahead and just put that to 3 so we don't go too far. All right, so how many does that go? 3 is 260. If we have 7, that's going to give us 8. So 216. Subtract, that's a 5. 10 minus 6 is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. Bring down our last 0. All right, so 72 times maybe 6 is going to give us 12, 42, 43. So that's a 6. That's 432. Subtract that off. That's 8. And so that's enough to get us to the nearest whole number, because if we move 1, 2 decimal places, then we can decide if that rounds up, and it does. So we have 0.236, move 2 decimal places, That's 23.6%. Now that rounds up, and so that's going to give us 24%. All right. Well, let's see. I think this is the last one for this section. So this one, it says how many pounds. So hopefully this one, it doesn't tell us what to round to. So hopefully it's going to be an easy one. So it says the US used about 35 million pounds of antibiotics last year. 70% of those drugs went to pigs, chickens, and cows. How many million pounds of antibiotics went to those? Chickens, pigs, and cows. Well, we're going to take the percent as a decimal, 0.7, times the total amount, 35. And again, we're going to leave off million pounds of antibiotics and just add that to the end as our answer. And that's equal to X. So now we take 35 times 0.7. So that's going to be 35. That's 24. And move it decimal once. And so X equals approximately 24.5 million pounds of antibiotics for the pigs, chickens, and cows. Okay. So that's how much was used just for those three types of animals, based on the numbers used last year. But last year probably wasn't just last year, but because I'm sure it's gone up from here. But again, all we did was take the 35 times the percent of the drug that went to those, and we got our final answer of 24.5 million pounds of antibiotics for chickens, pigs, and cows.